baby. Cool, cool, cool. Boom, bing, bing, dee, baby, baby. Boom, boom, cool, cool. Boom, bing. Cool, bing.
Hi, I'm Maya.
And I'm Paige.
Today we are at the Broad in Los Angeles. We can approach this triptych piece over here, which is identifiable as Horn Players by Jean-Michel Basquiat. The work is made of acrylic and oil paint stick on 3 canvas panels. He made it in 1983. This is one of those pieces that immediately draws your attention as you enter the room.
Definitely. The colors, the energy, and chaos is almost too much upon initial viewing. At first glance, the work appears to be messy and disorganized, with scribbles, abstracted faces, and seemingly randomly scrawled out crossed words. But upon a closer look, you can notice figures on the canvas that can be identified as Charlie Parker, a saxophone player, and Dizzy Gillespie, who plays the trumpet. These musicians are famous for their jazz, but the work isn't just about that, is it?
No, it isn't. Looking at the form, you can see multiple fragmented figures. The outline of their bodies is barely visible, and their 1/2 length portraits are on the left and right of the composition. Charlie, the bird, Parker, is on the top left corner, and Gillespie and his trumpet is shown on the bottom right. The lines making up their bodies are rough, almost childlike. The figures are far from realistic.
That's correct. A signature of Basquiat's style is abstracted forms. He drew much influence from artists such as Picasso. Elements of Picasso's work can be seen in the middle figure, in the bulge of the head. Basquiat also heavily drew from other famous artists like Leonardo and Manet. He is also well known to reference textbooks for his visual material. He relied on a gifted copy of Gray's Anatomy given to him by his mother for most of his anatomical drawings. The inspiration from and even appropriation of the works of these artists were not only an ode to the work of the greats, but also a way for Basquiat to insert himself into art history.
Similarly to how Basquiat drew upon the work of previous artists for his own pieces, Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie were known to appropriate existing harmonic structures from jazz standards, as well as reusing note patterns in multiple improvisational moments. This is another connection between the art of Basquiat and jazz. One can almost describe the way that Basquiat paints and creates as being similar to jazz. Both art forms may be confusing and almost nonsensical to the inexperienced eye or ear, but upon further studying, you can see the masterpiece behind it.
For example, the apparently random words on the panels can directly relate to the musicians. Ornithology is not only defined as the study of birds, but was also the name of one of Charlie Parker's famous tracks. Dizzy has the frame Do Shu Di Obi next to him, referring to his improvisational scat singing, which is a signature style of his. The words Pri and Chan are also present on the canvas and refer to Parker's child and wife, respectively.
Other deliberate choices were made too, like the black background that pulls the thin lines forward and emphasizes the contrast of the colors. The large blotches of white paint function to highlight the black background and obscure what is underneath them.
At its core, Horn Players functions as both a tribute to jazz legends and a commentary on race identity and the artist's place in history. For Basquiat, jazz was not just a musical form, it was a cultural touchstone, a symbol of freedom and a struggle.
In fact, the work is rooted in the context of 1980s New York, a time when Basquiat was emerging from the city's downtown art scene, gaining attention from collectors, galleries, and major cultural figures. His rise to fame was intertwined with the patronage of people like Andy Warhol and art collectors eager to invest in the new wave of urban expressionism. His style was influenced by his background of Puerto Rican and Haitian descent. As he grew up in Brooklyn, he spent a lot of time tagging and doing graffiti under the name Samo. Elements of this street art background are still evident in his work today.
In Horn Players, Basquiat uses jazz not just as a theme, but as a metaphor for the complex cultural history of African Americans, integrating symbols of African heritage with contemporary street culture.
Finally, the Horn Players can be linked with the piece The Migration of the Negro by Jacob Lawrence. They both are the object of African experience. Both works incorporate bold colors and simplified forms and show highlights and struggles of Black history. The artist's use of storytelling helps to evoke a sort of rhythm to the viewer.
Basquiat's work often received mixed responses. Some saw his chaotic style as genius, while others viewed it as overly abrasive or inaccessible. Horn Players invites the viewer to reflect on the emotional power of jazz, but also on the violence, fragmentation, and pain that jazz music often embodies.
Go 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 go. Ba-doo-be-doo-be-doo-be-doo-be-dee-bum. Go 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 go.